Hello guys, welcome back in Goku Manhwa channel. Let's continue. She had never expected her peaceful stay to turn into something so chaotic. When she opened that door, she suddenly froze. Inside, she saw him completely unclothed, clearly in a private moment he never intended anyone to witness. Her entire body stiffened with embarrassment, her face burning as she quickly looked away, yet her eyes still drifted back in shock. In her mind, she kept asking herself what kind of situation she had just walked into and why he was saying her name in the middle of something so personal. He turned toward her too, just as surprised. Their eyes met briefly, and both of them were unable to react at first, overwhelmed by the awkwardness. She kept thinking silently, unable to understand how he could still appear so composed in a moment like this. Instead of running away, she found herself stepping closer, her hand pushing the door open wider before she even realized what she was doing. Inside her mind she panicked, knowing that simply closing the door would not erase what she had seen or stop the heavy tension hanging in the air. Her thoughts raced as memories flashed in her head, moments when she had seen him before, looking confident and attractive, especially when his shirt outlined his physique. She realized that being under the same roof with him might completely ruin the peaceful healing life she had hoped for at the orchard. She felt like everything could spiral out of control within a single day. She told herself that if she was already in this situation, she might as well face it instead of running away. When she looked at him again, seeing the full extent of the moment to its unavoidable end, she felt her heart pounding. The shock, the embarrassment, and the strange curiosity mixed together, overwhelming her. Then, before she could stop herself, a word slipped out of her mouth. With a surprisingly innocent expression, she quietly asked if he wanted her help. He stared at her, stunned, unable to form a response. His face showed hesitation and shyness, as if he wanted to accept but couldn't bring himself to say it. She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to calm the storm inside her chest, and told herself that she needed to finish what she had started, even if she had no idea where this was going. The tension between them remained strong, marking a turning point she knew she could never take back. The moment she spoke, everything changed. He suddenly stood up, moving with a confidence she had never seen from him before. Before she could step back or even process what was happening, he came closer, reached behind her, and quietly closed the door. Then, without hesitation, he pulled her inside the room with him. Her heart nearly stopped. She never imagined he would react like this, especially after such an awkward moment. She felt completely overwhelmed, stunned that he could act so boldly. Before she had time to recover, he grabbed her gently but firmly and pressed her back against the wall. His face was close, his expression serious, and he asked her to help him. She could barely breathe. Her thoughts scattered as she stammered out a confused response, asking what he meant. He looked at her as if it were obvious, reminding her that she was the one who had offered to help in the first place. In her mind, she panicked, realizing he had agreed immediately, as if this was not urgent at all for him. The realization left her speechless. The air between them grew heavy as they locked eyes, both unable to look away. Their gaze held something intense, something that felt like affection mixed with desire, something deeper than simple embarrassment. Neither of them spoke, but the feeling in their eyes said more than words could. Trying to understand what he expected, she quietly asked how he wanted her to help. Instead of answering verbally, he took her hand and guided it toward his lower area, placing it there. She froze, her mind going blank from shock. He simply said that this was how. Both of them immediately turned shy again, their faces warm as they realized how close and vulnerable the situation had become. She felt a rush of disbelief inside her head, thinking to herself that this was what a man's body was like. She wondered silently if it was usually this noticeable. He leaned forward, resting his head against her shoulder, breathing out her name with a soft, unsteady voice. Hearing that, she felt another wave of surprise. He was so close that she could feel the warmth of his breath against her skin, making the moment even more overwhelming and unreal. They were standing extremely close, their bodies almost touching, the air between them heavy and warm. He suddenly breathed out, his voice low and strained, saying that he felt like he was reaching a peak of pleasure. She looked up at him, wide-eyed, seeing the intensity on his face as his body reacted. A moment later, his entire posture tightened, and he leaned into her, holding onto her as he reached that overwhelming moment. Instinctively, she wrapped her arms around him too, both of them clinging to each other in shock and confusion. Then she felt something suddenly hit the front of her top. She froze, staring down, and her expression changed instantly. She yelled his name, completely startled, demanding to know how he could let something like that happen directly onto her clothes. Her voice was filled with disbelief and frustration. He looked at her calmly and told her that they should call it even. She stared at him, confused, asking what he meant. His answer left her speechless. He pointed out that she had also been thinking about him earlier in the bathtub, implying that she had acted on those thoughts. The moment she realized what he meant, her entire face turned bright red. Her mind spiraled, repeating the same thought. He heard everything. She felt humiliated and flustered, unable to form a proper reply. She reacted in a childish, flustered way, avoiding eye contact, lightly hitting his arm, and puffing her cheeks in embarrassment, but she still couldn't say anything. He reassured her in a calm tone, telling her not to worry because he was the only one who heard her earlier. That small reassurance made her feel slightly relieved, but the embarrassment still burned inside her. He then suggested she change clothes and handed her one of his shirts, telling her to wear it for now. She stared at the clean clothing in his hand, hesitating, then slowly took it from him while looking down shyly. Her mind immediately began to panic again. She whispered to herself internally, wondering how she was supposed to take off her dirty top without making things worse. She imagined the worst possibility. What if the mess touched her face while she pulled her shirt over her head? The thought horrified her, and she shook her head slightly, telling herself that she absolutely did not want to picture that happening. The situation felt both embarrassing and ridiculous, leaving her completely overwhelmed. He looked at her seriously for a moment, then asked if she wanted him to take her top off for her. His tone sounded oddly considerate, almost generous, as if he genuinely wanted to help. The question hit her like a shock. She shouted in embarrassment, turning red instantly, telling him to forget it. She insisted she could do it herself, that it wasn't the first time she had changed clothes. But in her mind, panic took over as she remembered she wasn't wearing a bra under her sleepwear. The thought made her freeze, and she became even more flustered. He seemed taken aback, staring at her without knowing how to react. Then he offered again, saying he could do it with his eyes closed and that he wouldn't look. She couldn't tell whether to believe him or not. In her mind she kept worrying, would he really keep his eyes shut? Even if he did, she felt too nervous to handle it alone. After a moment of internal struggle, she quietly agreed, telling him they should try it that way. Both of them grew shy as the moment approached. She clutched the clean blue t-shirt against her chest, trying to cover herself, while he stepped closer with his eyes tightly shut. He warned her softly that he was going to start, then reached for the hem of her top. Her breathing grew uneven as she felt the fabric move. He told her to lift her arms, still keeping his eyes closed. She hesitated, then accidentally dropped the shirt he had given her onto the floor. She raised her hands awkwardly, and the top slid upward, freeing her arms. As he tried to pull it off completely, he suddenly said he would open his eyes because she had already seen him earlier, so he felt it was only fair. She immediately protested, telling him not to, but deep inside she couldn't deny that a part of her wanted him to look. The moment he opened his eyes, the top came off fully. He froze, clearly shocked by the sight in front of him. She panicked, thinking to herself that he had promised not to look. She attempted to cover herself with her hands, but it wasn't enough. She turned away slightly, cheeks burning, telling him to stop staring and just hand her the t-shirt. He didn't answer. His expression changed, his breathing heavier, clearly affected by the closeness and the situation. He stepped forward again, closing the distance between them even more, his face lowering instinctively toward her chest. The realization hit her at the same moment he leaned in, as if he were tempted to make direct contact. She went bright red, yelling in shock, unable to believe how bold he was being. Even in her frustration, she couldn't ignore the fact that his expression looked unexpectedly soft and almost adorable, which only made the situation more confusing and overwhelming for her.